Kondo Kitty, that's his name, and away go troubles down the kitty litter box. Kondo Kitty. Kondo Kitty by Michael H. Dyke. Once upon a late February midnight dreary, I heard the sounds of a cat's claws clearly. They were scratching upon a pane of glass on the French door of my living room, where I used to live in Hampton. Parting the chiffon curtain, I saw a pair of yellow and green eyes staring up at me from beyond the comfortable confines of my condominium domain. Their owner belonged to a crouching, scruffy, smoky gray and fluffy white cat, shivering in the drenching rain, with one white forepaw pressed against the glass. I opened the door briefly, and Cat, K-A-T, the name I gave my nocturnal visitor, rushed inside ahead of the chilly wind. I did not have any pets, although my neighbor, a schoolteacher, owned 2 cats, a Persian and a Siamese. I thought at first that cat must have belonged to her, although she later confirmed that my late-night caller was merely a neighborhood cat, not owned by any of the local residents. Cat conned me out of a can of albacore tuna eventually, and a saucer of milk. I decided to feed and shelter him for that night only, and send him packing on the next sunny morning. So I had thought. Throughout the night, Cat kept me entertained, beleaguered actually, with his incessant requests. I had to change the channels on my TV countless times before he finally stopped meowing in a miasmic way. An old black and white movie brought Cat at abeyance, though, after he'd finished rolling over my carpet to analyze the comfort index, or to finish shedding bales of wet tufts of that scruffy fur. The more he rolled and stretched, the softer the fur became, almost like downy, to my amazement. He rested his head comfortably on outstretched, long white paws. That position lasted only until the next commercial, however, when Cat trustfully jumped onto my lap and began kneading sharp claws into my flannel-clad leg. I winced, and I sprang up in pain, and then Cat jumped to the nearby sofa, meowing in disdain at my carelessness. Yes, at my carelessness. Cat had just initiated me as his latest neighborhood bed and breakfast patron. 6 months later, I decided to move. I had packed all my earthly belongings into a rental truck and kept waiting for Cat to join me. It was now well after the time I'd previously arrived home from work to find the furball sitting on the curb in front of my home, waiting for dinner, and me too. But on that particular occasion, Cat had chosen not to make an appearance. After 2 hours of walking around the neighborhood, I eventually decided that Cat must have chosen to remain under the umbrella-like care of a multitude of patrons, rather than relying on just me. Perhaps he had even surmised from that secret location that it would be easier for me to move away if he couldn't be seen. Of course, I had never desired abandoning him. Cat was the first item on my moving list. It was almost 2 years after I had moved, though, from Cat's neighborhood. Except for my desire to see him, I had no other reason for driving through that part of Hampton at all, you understand. Former neighbors residing there told me how Cat visited them on cold nights in the winter. On hot summer days, he still chilled out in front of an available air conditioner to blow-dry the sticky Virginia humidity from his fur, which I'd learned to properly stroke under threat of receiving an anguishing claw kneading, which of course I would have deserved. Cat, perhaps you sacrificed me to stay with the neighbors who needed you more, I used to say to myself. I still think about you. You'll always find my door open. And then, last November, while patrolling through the old neighborhood, I saw him for the very first time. Cat was crouched under the hedge bordering the property where I'd often found him waiting for me and dinner. I stopped the car, opened the door, and called, "Cat, come here, boy." He meowed in his old miasmic way. I didn't want to scare him off and hoped he'd come to me voluntarily. I had already decided not to catnap him against his will. He would have to make the decision to come with me or not. I had kept a small packet of liver and tuna cat treats with me whenever I would explore for Cat. Unfortunately, I had forgotten to get it from my pantry before leaving home that afternoon. But now, after finally finding him, I was glad I hadn't brought the treats to bait him into my car, for I most surely would have tried. That's how much I wanted to adopt him for my own. To my great joy, the treats were unnecessary, for Cat strolled over to me, meowing all the way in recognition. Had he then decided to settle down with one owner? Could he be content with having only one primary care patron after receiving the attentions of so many neighbors? After I'd spent an hour stroking him just the way he liked, talking to him and listening to him talking to me, purring and murmuring, I knew it was time to find out if he would either come home with me or resign me to having to visit him on his turf now and then. I opened my car door and slowly sat down behind the driver's seat. I did not close the door just yet. Then I started explaining to him that I had to go home and that I would visit him every afternoon. Cat didn't let me finish my sentence, however. He jumped onto my lap and permanently into my household, and I drove him to his new home. The end.